Hi guys, James back with another video. This is one I tried to get going several times and finally worked out a good solid 10. Solid might be a relative term, but I like all the movies on this list. And there was a few that I guess it did appear on this list, but I kind of lent them to another one that I'm hoping to do. Top 10 comedies part 2. So possibly look for them on that. So if you clicked on, this is the top 10 parody / spoof films. And again, it's hidden gems. So it's a lot of the ones that you may not have heard of, whether because they're direct to video, limited release, or just really old. And yeah, that was basically the three criteria. And some of the criteria I've been using recently for some of the lists. When I'm trying to fill it out, I'll pick some movies that may have gotten a theatrical release, a big theatrical release, and just bombed and left the theaters quickly before a lot of people got the chance to see them, like I did with Mortal Engines, Reminiscence and stuff that were on the post-apocalyptic films part 3, I believe. Excuse me. Anyway, so starting with number 10. This is a film called Ghost Team 1. And this is the one from 2013, indie comedy horror film. And this was basically two guys that both fall in love with the same girl and try to prove that their house is haunted. And it's sort of like a scary movie kind of thing, except with a found footage twist to it. And I thought it was pretty entertaining. And it even had something that I think Ghost Team 1 did better than, as an example, Scary Movie 2. Scary Movie 2, I've only seen the first 4, but I would put Scary Movie 2 way at the bottom. I didn't enjoy it really much at all. And there's a quick scene in the movie, but it's expanded, not in deleted scenes, maybe in the making of, where you basically have the ghost doing something sexual to one of the guys while he's sleeping. So, but I thought it was a lot better than the sex with a ghost scene in Scary Movie 2. Anyway, so it has, you might recognize some of the guys in there, mostly the girl played by Fernanda Romero. I can't remember off the top of my head where I've seen her before, but I know I've seen her in movies or TV before. Anyway, so Ghost Team 1. Number 9, we have a film from 2013 as well called The Starving Games. Now, there was a few Hunger Games parodies that came out, and I had 2 of them. One of which is this, The Starving Games. The other one was a movie called The Hangover Games, or The Hungover Games or something. I never ended up watching it, but obviously it would have been a hangover movie twist on The Hunger Games. Anyway, Starving Games, I enjoyed it. It leans heavily on the fact that they're making fun of The Hunger Games, with probably a few other movies thrown in there. They try and pepper a bunch of movies that came out around the same time to make fun of that they work into the story. Largely, this one is just about the Hunger Games, although it does have, towards the end of the movie, the Avengers show up, and they have the guy playing Nick Fury that basically Hawkeye speaks up, and Nick Fury shouts him down, makes fun of him, saying the Avenger that will never get his own movie spin-off or whatever, which back then, sure, now he had his own TV show. Anyway, let me see, it was Mayara Walsh. Mayara Walsh plays, I think she's Can't Miss Evershot, and the guy, I believe it's Cody Christian, he plays Dale instead of Liam Hemsworth's character, Gale, I think. Anyway, like I said, it's basically a straight up rip on the Hunger Games, but it's pretty entertaining. So that is The Starving Games. Number 8, we have a film called 305 or 305. It was a parody on the movie 300, the Zack Snyder film. This one was from 2008, and just like Zack Snyder was getting into the whole digital movie sets, where 300 and Sucker Punch and stuff were largely shot on a green screen set, so they could do whatever they want in the backgrounds. This one was also shot on a green screen set, but it's very much, you can tell it's digital video, not like the high definition that you see in the theaters. But for what it was, I still thought it was pretty funny. There's no real recognizable actors in it, but I thought it was pretty funny. It's basically the 300 Spartans are doing what they're doing in the movie 300, and these 5 Spartans are the ones that were ordered to go protect the goat path. So it's just all about these 5 guys doing it. And you have, like, they mention some of the characters in here. You have Claudius, Daryl, Testicles, Shazam, Demetrius, and Aurelia. I haven't seen this in a long time, so I can't remember which of those 5 are the 5 in the 305, but you expect them to have silly names and stuff. Excuse me. So it's all just a side story, but it's still pretty funny. For being, there's some movies that don't have high production values that if they're still enjoyable, they're relying on the acting or the writing. This one relies on the writing. It's pretty funny. So that was 305, or 305. Number 7, we have a film from 2005 called My Big Fat Independent Movie. Now this one, because of the title, you can tell it's largely parodying My Big Fat Greek Wedding, but all the movies that they parody in here, they list, and there's Big Fat Greek Wedding, Memento, because you have a guy saying, like, I have a condition. He's dressed just like Guy Pearce in Memento, but like he'll say, I have a condition. Somebody looks away and then looks back and he's like pulled his pants down or whatever. Instead of all the tattoos, we're talking about his memory loss. Swingers, Pulp Fiction, Magnolia, Amelie, Reservoir Dogs, Pi, The Good Girl, Run Lola Run, Clerks, and El Mariachi. I've seen most of those, but the ones I hadn't, I could probably get the gist of what they were making fun of, because I know about most of the movies that I haven't seen, even though I haven't actually seen them. You have the 2 guys that look like John Travolta and Sam Jackson from Pulp Fiction with like this briefcase full of diamonds or whatever, and there's an actor in there who I can't remember his name, and I'm not sure what I'd seen him in, but he does one of the better Christopher Walken impersonations I've ever seen. That there's a quick scene where he does it, and he has the mannerisms and the voice down, just like Jay Moore does. Or there's another actor who does a great Christopher Walken impersonation, and I don't know what I've seen him in other than there's the making of or the behind the scenes stuff on Snakes on a Plane. And there's one guy who does a lot of impressions during that behind the scenes for whatever reason. Anyway, besides the point. It's ripping on a lot of independent movies, and I thought it probably deserved to be higher on this list, but then again, these are the top 10, so I like all of these movies a lot and love some of them. So none of these movies are ones that I would not recommend or consider bad. So when I do a top 10, the movies are basically all winners. It's just to which degree. Anyway. So that's My Big Fat Independent Movie. Number 6, we have a film from 2015 called The Final Girls. Now, The Final Girls is a play on the term a final girl. And a final girl in a horror movie is the girl basically who's the lead of the movie who survives till the end. Where it's like you have Neve Campbell in Scream, you have Jennifer Love Hewitt in I Know You Did Last Summer, Jamie Lee Curtis in Halloween, the actress, whoever, from Friday the 13th. And it's just a typical, like, the Scream Queen or like the lead actress who survives till the end for whatever reason. And this one is, you have a girl played by Taissa Farmiga, Vera Farmiga's younger sister, and her mom, played by Malin Ackerman, was a famous Scream Queen actress who had this film, Camp Bloodbath, slasher film. And she ended up dying in a car accident. She was in a car accident with her daughter, and she ended up dying. Well, the daughter's going to this double feature revival of the movie, and her friends are there, and they end up having to flee the theater and escape. Somebody cuts a hole in the screen, and they jump through the hole in the screen and actually into the movie. But because they're in a formulaic horror film, they have to abide by the rules of the horror film. So they'll be walking down a road, and this car pulls up beside them, and you have like Adam Devine saying like, "Well, blah, blah, you have to do this. Hey, what's up, guys? Blah blah blah." Blah. And they say like, "Who the hell is this guy?" And they start talking to him, but he's expecting a different answer because it's a horror film and there's a script. And he ends up driving off. Then he comes back around again saying the same thing. And they find, I think the second or third time, they finally get onto the fact, oh, okay, they have to respond to what he's saying in the right way in order to advance. It's almost like a video game. And you've also got the typical ditzy girl who's going to die, and they use her as bait, and like the killer can only go certain ways and kill certain people. And it's funny in that if you've seen enough horror films, you know how they usually go. So you know what these guys are going to have to do and the funny things that happen when they go against that. So that's The Final Girls. Number 5, we have a film from 2009 called Stan Helsing. This one I think is pretty funny. It's basically a guy named Stan Helsing, works at a video store, and he has to return some videotapes. He had to deliver some videotapes to this old lady, but on the way, his friends pick him up because they're going to a Halloween party. So you get what's the guy's name? Kenan Thompson from Saturday Night Live dressed up as Superman. You have Diora Baird in there as like the stereotypical like Pocahontas. Leslie Nielsen as a woman in a bar for whatever reason. And then you have parody versions of Pinhead, where instead of all the nails sticking out of his head, he has like all these like darts and spikes and stuff, all the stupid things sticking out of his head instead of nails. You have Leatherface, who instead of like the human skin as a mask, he's got this leather bowling bag with the handles sticking out. You have Chucky, who looks a lot like Chucky. He's got like scars all over his face. And Michael Myers is in there, but his mask just looks weird instead of funny, I suppose. But it is a funny movie, just mostly because of the dialogue. And the lead is Steve Howey. And he's a funny actor, been on TV shows and movies and stuff. And he brings it all together, if you ask me. So that is Stan Helsing. Number 4, we have a film from 1998 called Mafia, with an exclamation point. But it's also known as Jane Austen's Mafia. And I don't really know why. I guess maybe it was just a marketing ploy or whatever. I actually saw this one in the theater with my buddy Bevan. And this one is just a straight up riff on the Godfather movies. And I always thought this movie was hilarious. And you've got Jay Moore in the lead. You have Pamela Gidley in there. Lloyd Bridges in the like Don Corleone kind of role. But I think it basically rips on the first 2 Godfather movies. There may have been a little bit of 3 in there, but you have a lot of the typical tropes. They're there for the turning of the olives from green to black, and they're turn from green to black on the vine. They rip on Forrest Gump for some reason. But some of the standouts that I always enjoyed was like the Pamela Gidley gets into the pool, and you have Jay Moore. He's about to dive in. He does this kind of wussy jump into the pool, but she takes a pin out of her hair and shakes her hair in one of those dramatic scenes, slow motion. Well, he does the same thing. He's got short hair, takes the pin out and then shakes his hair, and he's got this long mane of hair. They actually rip on Ace Ventura, of all things, when he's in the bathroom and tries to flush it and it floods the room. In Godfather, where Don Corleone is playing with his grandson, he puts the orange wedge in his mouth and like tries to scare the little kid. Well, Lloyd Bridges turns around, he's got this big watermelon wedge in his mouth. Yeah, it's good. I don't see too many mafia parodies, but I thought this one would probably lead the way out of those. So that is Mafia. Number 3, we have a film from 1993 called Fatal Instinct, not to be confused with the thriller called Fatal Instinct with Michael Madsen, which is a decent movie, but whatever. This one stars Armand Assante, and you've also got Sean Young, Kate Nelligan's in there, Sherilyn Fenn, and Christopher McDonald, Shooter McGavin from Happy Gilmore. And it's basically a guy who's a cop / lawyer, and he gets involved with a femme fatale, so he's cheating on his wife, but his wife is also cheating on him with a mechanic, and she's planning to kill him. And it's a spoof of all basically the erotic thrillers or sex thrillers, like Basic Instinct, Fatal Attraction, and you can spot each time they make fun of them, which is the point of a parody film. But Armand Assante, who's usually playing a very serious character in most of his movies, and sometimes a lot of organized crime, to see him play a cop / lawyer, just very straight-faced, playing the straight guy, but like in all these wacky situations. And he also narrates the film, but it's very funny. So that is Fatal Instinct. Number 2, this is the lone high-profile entry where it was big star in the movie. It was put out in theaters, but it was a very limited release, and I don't think it got a lot of recognition or exposure. And this is from 2012, and this is Casa De Mi Padre. And this was the Spanish film parody starring Will Ferrell. This is where they parodies all the Telemundo or telenovela, basically the Mexican soap operas that are on TV, and it's almost exclusively in Spanish. I think Nick Offerman might have the only lines of English dialogue in the movie, and everyone else, including Will Ferrell, are all speaking Spanish throughout the whole movie. You've got Gael Garcia Bernal, Diego Luna, Genesis Rodriguez, Will Ferrell, and it's pretty much just Will Ferrell playing Armando Alvarez, who's trying to save his father's ranch from a powerful drug lord. But it's funny with some of the stuff they do, where the woman is standing there and the wind's blowing through her hair, and you get Gael Garcia Bernal behind him trying to light his cigarette, and just the wind blowing her hair. He has to keep turning because he can't do it, and like they'll be smoking 2 cigarettes at once instead of one. It's just a lot of the stuff you'd see in the telenovela shows that are just out of place totally in this movie. And I think it's a very much a hidden gem. It's very funny, and one of the not one of the funniest Will Ferrell movies I've seen, but one of the funnier ones that I've seen. Anyway, so it's worth checking out if you don't mind subtitles. So Casa De Mi Padre. Now, number 1, I have this is the lone old entry where the movie was popular back then. In this case, 1985, but I don't think a lot of people would know about it now. And this one's called Transylvania 65000. And this one stars Jeff Goldblum and Ed Begley Jr. as 2 guys who work at a newspaper who are sent to where are they sent to? It's modern day Transylvania, to uncover the mystery behind these recent Frankenstein sightings. But and the movie involves Frankenstein, like vampires, or like Bride of Dracula, you have the Creature from the Black Lagoon, the werewolf and stuff. But they're all just normal, slight twists on those mythology. Like the werewolf is just a guy who's really hairy and makes animalistic noises while he's making out with a woman. You have Frankenstein, who's just a large guy who doesn't speak very well. You have it's Gina Davis playing a vampire, but she just has like, she's very self-conscious about her body and just uses that as a coping mechanism. And you have the mummy, who's just a beautiful woman underneath who had plastic surgery, but it's all these paranoid people who just see all these glimpses of these people and freak out. There's monsters all over this town, and it's really hilarious, the back and forth between Jeff Goldblum and Ed Begley Jr. It's hysterical. And I remember seeing that. I didn't see this in the theater, but I think my older brother rented it for us and got us all drinks and candy and stuff. So we sat down and just had a blast all afternoon watching this one. So if I have the DVD, and I believe you can find it online through Google Play, as far as I know. So it is out there. And if you can get your hands on it, it's worthwhile. And it does age well. It ages very well. You've also got Michael Richards in there as sort of like a Igor kind of butler thing. Sorry, I forgot to mention him. It's hilarious. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed that list. I'm glad I finally got through it, or finished it enough to present it for you guys. Anyway, so like, comment, subscribe, suggestions, everything all are welcome, and I'll see you next time. Toodles.